Awesome. All right, so we are here at PCA 2022 with Tim Swanson from Cigars Daily.
What's happening?
So I don't do intros for these often, but I'm going to do one for you. And it's going to be unscripted, so this is dangerous.
All right, I'm ready. I'm ready to receive it.
When I got into cigars in, 2014, I didn't know who you were yet. A couple years went by. I got a little bit more into it and got more into it. And then I found the videos you were doing back at TNT.
Yeah.
And then the enthusiasm and excitement for even just like the little parts of the industry and being able to take people who know nothing about cigars and then create a hype and an enthusiasm behind them. And just the entertaining, weird ways you're presenting. And I'm going to use the word weird. But you watch Cigars Daily's video now and you'll get what I mean.
Yeah.
But it's such a perfect way to introduce people, especially online, and get them into the cigar industry. And so now you have Cigars Daily, which is an online store, as well as a shop in Phoenix.
Yep.
And you're killing it there.
It feels like sometimes it feels like we're killing it. Sometimes it feels like we're being killed by it. But either way, I think we get to deal with the right problems, and that's what you want.
But so all of that to say, when I got into the industry and got into cigars, your videos are what sucked me into it. And so when ATF got brought up, and I was like, who do I respect in the industry that I know what they're putting out? You were the first one. And so this has been.
We talked early on when you were getting ATF going. I mean, this has been so cool to see this thing come together.
Thank you.
And before I take your interview over and start
you're supposed to take it over,
dude. I'm so impressed.
It's actually a trap.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
So when he called me about this, he's like, ATF, it didn't take, like, you had me at ATF.
Right.
Like, I was already there. Like, I already could envision the whole thing. And then you sent me the cover with Matt Booth. I was like, this is so great. And truly, like, if there's a in my mind, you know, a people who are underrepresented, it's people who love these things that we call vices that are that are being considered so taboo that it's almost like you're humiliated if you want to enjoy them and even enjoy them in public, talk about them. This is a place where you can celebrate your love for this kind of stuff and stuff that, by the way, all goes really hand in hand. So I'm having a good time. And I was like over the moon when you called me. I was like, I get to write for something.
Right.
I haven't gotten to write in so long. And then I had to actually write it, and that was terrifying. But yeah.
You did it. You did it.
It's in there.
It took a few tries.
It's in print now.
You can't do anything about it now. It's permanent.
Okay.
Take a look at it. I don't remember where it is in here. It's somewhere.
It's somewhere in the, like, second, third.
And so, like, the vision and the goal for the magazine is to kind of do what you did at the beginning of how do we take people who have been either smoking cigars for 20 years or just started, introduce them to brands, introduce them to the people behind the brands.
Yeah.
And then if they're experienced and they know the industry, it's like get to know them more. You have the long form interviews you do with brand owners and reps. And that's a super cool way for people to get to know what they're smoking.
Well, I think there's with creating content online, the thing that surprised me the most was what I ended up making.
Okay.
That really took me off guard.
What do you mean what you ended up making?
I thought I was going to come into this and make certain videos. I think most content creators do this. I thought, like, in my mind, I was like, I know what kind of content is best. What kind of content would make the best channel? And when I said the best, in my head, it was like the best channel with the most information, where you could find what you wanted to know relatively quickly. And it was like not that what people cared about at all. Like, no one gave a shit about that. But when I started paying attention to what are people watching, and what are people coming back to, like, I started seeing, and really the thing that drives a lot of headlines that you see now is what people are into. And I really got into making est videos early on, like the biggest cigars, you know, the biggest production cigar, the worst cigars, the best cigars, the most, you know, the darkest cigars that people really started getting into. And then I started listening to the conversation and realizing that doing this is all about being a part of that conversation. Right. And if you can answer questions people are already asking, and that's what I try to do with videos now. What questions are people asking? What are they already talking about that you can speak into, that you can answer? And I'll tell you this, you know, you're talking about getting into cigars and you know, the videos helped. Yeah, and they helped grow the excitement. And for me, this has been such an unexpected privilege of doing content online. is that it's so valuable to people what they get out of it, what it does for your collection. Like, it gives you confidence in this thing that you're excited about. You know that your collection is in good shape because you know how to take care of it. Because when I got into cigars, none of that was there. Like, unless you wanted to go on Amazon and buy a book, because books is what they sold on Amazon 20 years ago. Yeah. Like, unless you wanted to do that, there was no like channel. There was no central repository of information. And the fact that Cigars Daily has become that for people is like one of the coolest things in the world. Like, I destroyed whole collections of cigars when I first got into this. Yeah. They got dried out, or they got mold, or they got beetles, or something terrible.
And then there's Boveda.
And then and I didn't even know about Boveda. Right. And maybe Boveda wasn't even around 20 years ago. They probably weren't. But I think that, being able to give people something I didn't have when I started has been really amazing. Right.
So when you come up with videos, or you're trying to answer questions like you're talking about, where do those come from? Are those questions that you think people want to know, or are people asking you these questions and you're like, I want to give the answer to everybody?
It's quite frankly, it's a scary thing, because you see the cigar social media stuff is being really, really repressed lately. Like, even people posting their own personal stuff about their love for cigars is sometimes gets silenced, and that's really where I watch to see, like, what are people talking about, what are people asking, and like, that's that question, what is the conversation about cigars right now, and how can I speak into it in a valuable way?
Sure. The people are taking to it like none other, and there's other people out there doing similar to what you're doing, but the passion behind what you're doing with Cigars Daily and with your YouTube content and everything else shines through the rest, I think.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that.
And like, I've had so many friends over the years that are wanting to start getting into it. I'm like, just go hit shuffle on Tim's videos. Like, he's going to yell at you for a while, but
I have a few friends who do videos in cigars and YouTube, and even a couple other sort of hobby arenas, and I'm like, you just like go watch the videos that have the most views and make that video. Yeah. Like, that's a great way to get, like, if you want to get to the center of a conversation, look at what people are looking at. Like, if you go find a cigar video, it's like how to cut a cigar, and that video's got 1 million views. Well, that's a pretty good indicator that people want to hear about that, right? Yeah. Like, yeah. But being engaging is, like what you're talking about, that's so critical.
Absolutely.
Like, I see so many content creators, and for some of these guys it works, where they're like, well, I want to tell you about Shock Top beer. Here it is. Right. And it's like very genuine from some personality types. Right. But there's a certain type of personality that really jives with it. I'll tell you this. This is what I tell all content creators when you start to make stuff online. If you want to grow an audience and you want to do stuff for your own channel, for yourself, you can take your whole audience, and it's probably true for ATF too. Right. Especially now. You can put your whole audience in a stadium, okay? And you're on a stage, and they're all sitting in this, and you could literally shuffle people around, and not just your audience, the people who are aware of you, right? You could shuffle them into 4 different groups. And those 4 different groups would be, on one side, the people who hate you, and they just absolutely hate you. And clear on the other side is all the people who just love what you do, and they're willing to be a part of it no matter what kind of blunder you're involved with. If you're involved with a scandal, they'd still have your back because they're just with you. And then in the middle,
is this you warning us about something?
Something. I mean, if anybody needs a warning, it's probably at ATF Magazine. Everyone's coming for you. Right. Okay. Good. As long as you know.
I mean, the logo's kind of an FU to the.
I love it. I want you guys. I need you to call me the day you start getting mail for the actual ATF. They just accidentally sent it to you guys.
I should have called you a while ago. So,
but you got when you got an audience. You got some people who like you for a reason, some people who don't like you for a reason, and you want to like work with your audience. But certainly, there's a broad spectrum of people out there.
Right. So what have been? I'm going to split this into 2 questions. What have been the biggest challenges with you growing your business, both online and retail? And then what have been the challenges with stuff like YouTube? Because you've had a lot of flack from the internet gods, and then have bumped over to Cigars Daily Plus. Yeah. So has that been? Walk us through that. Has that been?
So I'll take you guys through the social media side and then through the business side. Yeah. The social media side is very stressful, because all the platforms are a little bit different. They're all, generally speaking, the same. and you really have to focus on minding your P's and Q's. And the problem is the application of the rules that they set, the community guidelines, standards, the application of those rules don't seem to be consistent. So like yesterday, Facebook deleted Cigars Daily's Facebook page. It had around 300 5-star reviews for Cigars Daily. You know, we had so many check-ins at the shop. 16,000 people followed the page. It was like notable, and they just unpublished it and said, "You're unpublished." And we had no community guideline strikes. It's like, here's a list of all your strikes.
This is the page for your store.
This is a page for my store. So here's the strikes. None to show. Page restricted and removed. 4 guideline strikes. That was what I had. No strikes, but we were removed for strikes. So that kind of stuff's really scary. And right now we're still there on YouTube. Right. We're there on Twitter. We're there on Instagram. We're at a lot of these places. But we have no idea what's going to happen. And making content is literally like standing in front of a firing squad. That's what it feels like. I mean, it's very stressful. The business side of it, for me personally, you know, a lot of people start a cigar shop, and it can go well. It can go decently. You know, I don't think there's a lot of shops that have, I guess the results that we've had. We've had to move twice, and the building that we're in now is kind of busting at the seams. So it's a
beautiful lounge, though.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. It's been really cool, and all along you say stuff like, we've had the right kind of problems.
Yeah.
Like, oh, we're growing too much. We got to move. Like, oh, we need to order more product. We got to spend more money. And that's great. Like, I think that, to be completely honest with you, right now we're at a size and looking at a future of growth that I'm scared of, because I've never done it before, and I'm scared that I won't know what I'm doing. Like, it isn't what it like. Doing what we've always done has to fundamentally change for us to continue to grow because of the size that we are. And so, as a business owner, you have to be what the business needs you to be. And so that's like a lot of my focus right now is like, what is Cigars Daily going to look like in 2 years and 5 years from now? And what am I going to need to know and do for it to be that size? Right. And it's a logistical stuff. It's a lot of stuff that freaks the hell out of me.
I mean, that's the challenge, and
it's the exciting part of the entrepreneurial thing. You're like,
You could look at it like you want to, really dig the roots deep in the business, or grow, and take the risk, and I think it's possible to do both.
Well, the conversation comes up.
Yeah.
Like, do we just stay the same size, and do we just not do anything to grow, and maybe just chill, and just because we're doing good, right? And then you're like, well,
but you've got momentum.
You got momentum, you're growing, people are coming along, the demand, the growth is already there, but then you got an opportunities for substantial growth, and it's like, well, if you don't go for it when it's in front of you, right, then first of all, why are you there? And if you don't go for it when it's available, what the hell, man? Yeah. Why would you leave money on the table? Why would you not pursue your dreams to the fullest? Why would you settle? Why wouldn't you?
So what do you want to be next for the brand? Or for your career in cigars? Which, don't talk about American Viking yet. We'll get into that.
Yeah. I want to do Cigars Daily. That's what I want to do. If I can do Cigars Daily and be what Cigars Daily needs me to be, then I want to be that. So if you're asking me what's next for me, I think it's everything I just said. There's a set of skills I need to have. Yeah. For the sake of Cigars Daily that I have to grow. Right. So if I could if I change anything, do anything, it'd be that.
Very cool. So, American Viking, you started your own brand.
Lifelong
dream.
Talk us
through it.
Lifelong dream.
They're phenomenal, by the way. And also, the short filler, remind me of the name of it.
Rico Barato.
That means?
It's a man. That's that
what
Spanish
dude. What is it's poor and...
It's Rico rich, Barato cheap.
Okay.
So that was most real cigar makers will sit down and come up with something amazing like Sin Compromiso, right, Steve Saka, or the Omelec from Foundation Cigars are coming out with it. So many brands have these deep, rich names. Or if you've been around long enough that you could slap 20th anniversary on something, just shit out some amazing stuff, then good for you. But American Viking was a fulfillment of a dream. when we started Cigars Daily, we had our own house blends, right?
Yeah.
A lot of cigar shops do that. If you're a cigar shop, you don't have house blends. What are you doing? You absolutely should. But we found that we were selling our house brand 6-to-1 over any boxed banded cigar on the shelf.
Wow.
It was like really substantial, and we said we could work with other shops. We could be a better part of the larger cigar community by supporting shops, because our online following really was everywhere.
Right.
So we had followers in every state. So it's like, well, if you could get this shop exclusive from Cigars Daily, that's good. We make the money. It's fine. But like, if we can also support the brick and mortar side of cigars in America and grow the business, is always good. But if we could be a part of that, it'd be really powerful. And then we launched it in February of 2020. And it was just the worst historical time to launch a company. And
right.
So it's one of the things I tell people, like, the cigars that don't explode and don't become huge. And American Viking hasn't done what we wanted it to do, although people love the cigars, which is great. It hasn't become the brand we wanted it to be. Like, the brands that make it aren't always the ones that are the best. The brands that make it sometimes are the ones that are the best marketed. We launched American Viking right at the beginning of the pandemic. I mean, lockdown started in like March 2020, right? Sure. So, we ended up with like around 30 shops, I think, at this point that we work with the brand. But it's been cool because we've had a much more intimate relationship with a lot of our shops. And like, it's interesting. We're an online retailer through Cigars Daily, but we also sell American Viking cigars. That threatens some cigar shops, and some of the guys who aren't afraid of it are able to really like find a cool groove in the market for themselves.
Right. And so was American Viking, was that the house brand?
Yeah, it was.
That
like
was
all
selling
the, so
6-to-1?
yeah, if I wasn't clear about that, I'm sorry. So yeah, we took all those house cigars, and they were at first they were really more brand names than anything.
Sure.
The Box Press Rebellion, the Liga Zebra, the Filthy Viking, and then we were looking for a single factory to work with, and got the factory of our dreams, one of the biggest factories in the world. And now all of those house brands have become American Viking. So it was all the stuff that really created the foundation for Cigars Daily too.
It's been cool to see that develop.
Yeah.
And the excitement around the first one.
And it was so much like the crowd got to decide what cigars were good and what cigars weren't. Like,
what's the cool thing that making it a house brand in the shop? Like the shop that I frequent, they have 2 lines right now, and they have a third one coming out, hopefully the fall. But watching the regulars in the shop that are coming in to support the brick and mortar and then support the work that they're doing through their brand is kind of the icing on the cake of like, oh, we have the support of the people that supported us already, and let them decide what's going to work. And if it doesn't,
building something together, and your excitement actually matters, right?
Right. And having the community that you create at your shop be what decides how your house brand moves forward is cool. And so there's the segue. Community. You wrote us an article in ATF Magazine. If you haven't subscribed, do it so you can read his article.
Go subscribe.
About community and cigars.
Yes. And there's a foundation ad right after it. For
there
foundation
is that offensive, or is that?
No, not at all.
Okay, good.
It's fantastic.
And so that seems to be your passion with the shop, is creating a place that's community driven. People can be open with each other, get to know each other. You created this scenario in the article about these 2 old guys kind of going back and forth.
Yeah, Mike and something. Yeah.
Yeah.
They were really mean to each other, I recall.
And kind of the banter and openness that you see in shops is something you don't see in many places in the world anymore.
Yeah.
And it's created this sort of haven for open conversations with people that you would not have otherwise sat down with.
Yeah.
And that's what this whole convention is filled with. That's what these shops are filled with.
Yeah, dude, there's something about a community of close-knit people with their own special culture.
Right.
Like, they can communicate with each other in ways that wouldn't make sense necessarily to other people because they spend so much time around each other. It's a lot of what you used to find in the church. It was where you'd find it, right?
Right.
And then for a long time, there were places that you found it outside of the church. A barbershop was that,
right?
And a coffee shop was certainly that for a long time. And it's not as much of that.
It's become a second office now.
Yeah. And cigar shops, well, I think some people treat them like a second office. Some people do that.
Right.
Mostly is that community.
Right.
People come in and it's probably easy for me because, like, I am the most comfortable with other dudes that I can walk in and be like, "What's up, dickless?"
Right.
And, like, that's my people. They're like, they come back with something really good.
Right.
And the meaner, the better. Like, I'm like, yes. These
and then
are
it
my
goes
people.
slightly too far. You lose a customer, and then a new guy walks in the door, and you're good to go.
I got to tell you about that. I can't imagine I can be too off color for ATF.
No, there's no.
I have a customer in my shop, and I really wanted to do this short video. And in this short video, what I wanted to do was like, I'm holding like a little Connecticut cigar, and I've got a black customer who happens to be smoking a gigantic Maduro cigar. So I asked this dude, he's one of my customers. I'm like, hey man, can I do this video with you? If you don't think it's funny, I'm sorry. So I pitched the video to him, and he laughs. He goes, that's funny, man. And so I did this short with him online,
Sure.
and it's gotten like 200,000 views. I mean, everybody loves it. Thinks about. I walk up and I'm like, "Hey, I'm gonna smoke this little Undercrown Shade Corona Pequeña," and he's got like an Asylum 9x90, this massive cigar. But like, there's nowhere I would ever begin to think about asking that question to another person than one of my own customers at a cigar shop.
Right. I mean, you already had his money if he's sitting down.
I mean,
right?
I already had his money if he's there. But at the same time, like. These are people you can be comfortable with enough to be yourself and not worry. And I think there's a lot of worry, societally right now. People have to worry about a lot, but
absolutely,
it's a comfortable place to be yourself. And I think that it does. I mentioned the article. It tears down socioeconomic lines.
Right.
It tears down societal lines. It tears down religious lines. It tears down the things that really that divide us and lets us have, I think, good conversations. As long as you can agree to disagree.
Yeah.
And as long as you're not talking with someone who thinks that the government is the answer to all of our problems, those are the only people you can't get along with.
There are a few lines.
There are a few out there.
Yeah.
But those are the only people you can't get along with.
Right. I mean, that's proving to be the case in every industry, everywhere you go. People are losing the ability to communicate.
Yeah.
And have a conversation. And if you disagree, it becomes a war. And you lose family, you lose friends. And it's not... like having a place like cigar lounges where that just has not been an issue yet.
Yeah.
At a broad scale is awesome.
Yeah.
And I hope that it continues. And the more that keeps getting pushed as the cigar lounge and the cigar industry as a whole is a place for that. And it's a place for relationships. And like even when we got to PCA, I know some people here, gotten to know a few reps from brands and owners. But last night was cool at the reception because it was like a giant family reunion.
Hell
but then everybody's just giving each other shit all night.
Yeah. And that's great. Like, yes. A little tearing of the flesh goes a long way with the right crowd.
Right. So anyways, I won't take up too much of your time.
Hey, this is a blast.
But this was great. If you have not checked out Cigars Daily, do that. Check them out on YouTube.
Yep.
Check them out. You have your website. You have Cigars Daily Plus for when the internet gods ban him on YouTube.
Yeah, that just means we took all our videos and put them on our own server so that no one could delete all our content. Yeah. So there's always a place to watch the best damn cigar content online for free.
Right. So awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
This was great.
Appreciate it, brother.